What's up, Dallas? It's your girl, Rachel. I have a wonderful guest on my show, Miss Aneta. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So, just for our audience out there, if you are a young adult or a teenager, somebody who is watching our show for inspiration, Aneta and I are about to address a very sensitive topic. So, if you are able to proceed with this interview, please, by all means, watch it. It is going to be about domestic violence awareness. And her and I both have experienced this. So it's something that we know that we need to bring awareness to and letting the community know and women know and also men know that being aware of it is something that we all need to be doing. So, are you ready to talk about that?
Yes, I am ready. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely my pleasure. Aneta is one of my speakers at the He Knows My Name conference on July 19th. I will like to invite everybody to come out to that event. It will be life-changing. So, Aneta, you are an advocate for domestic violence awareness, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. And tell me about that because you have a book that's actually stemmed from your life experience. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, so I wrote a book. Um, it was telling the story of a very terrible relationship I went through for 5 years with my ex-husband, where I was traumatically, physically abused quite extensively. It was like something I had never experienced in my life. And so I decided to write about it as part of my healing journey, and just to help others as well, because sometimes when other victims and survivors hear the story of someone else that has been in their shoes or that's going through it, it gives them a strength. It gives them that support to say, you know what, if I read the story and they got out, I can get out too. And so I wrote the book. It's called Sleeping with the Monster, My Story of Survival by Aneta Sproles. Um, and it's everywhere on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, and I also have my in-person copies that I sell when I go out to events and talk to people about domestic violence awareness.
Now, I know for all of us domestic violence victims and all that, we have our breaking moment, like our moment where we're just saying, I can't do this no more. I can't be in this situation. I deserve better than this. For you, what was that moment? Like, how did you know that this was it? Like, you have to get out.
I would say it was about a year ago when I had got to my breaking point. And I had met somebody I had never knew. And they were talking to me and they were like, I think you need to understand that you have help and you have allowed yourself to kind of believe that you don't have anybody. Even though I don't know you, I'll do everything to protect you. But I think you have the strength to get out of this. And so I just kept thinking about what they were saying. I kept thinking about the inspiration that they were giving me. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, it's 5 years later. I don't want to try to survive another attempt and hope I make it this time. And so what I did was that was my breaking point. I was like, I was like, if strangers are willing to help me, which was something I never had before, I was like, if strangers are willing to help me get out of this and have a better life, I think it's my time to take it. And it's a sign from God that maybe I need to just get the strength and get out this time and stay out.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that right there is like, that's that eye-opening moment that a lot of people don't see. There's a lot of people who take that for granted. That was your experience. But my experience was I already knew I needed to get out of the relationship. I was just stuck in not being able to get out until my domestic partner at that time, he was my husband, my first husband, and I actually found my way out because he was arrested for actually beating someone up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my opportunity to take my kids and get out of that situation. Like, I was like, there was no other way. And for all our reviewers out there, we like to be really transparent on our show because, if our stories can help you on your journeys, we want you to hear that to know that there is hope and there is restoration in your journey.
Yeah.
So for me, um, my waking point was there was something he said to me. He said, if I can't have you, nobody else is ever going to have you.
Hmm.
And it was basically kind of a point where if you leave me, I'm going to kill you. Like he was at that point, he was very aggressive, he was very abusive, and he was a stalker. He stalked me for a long time. And thank God he's in prison now. Not for what he did to me, which, I've forgiven him for all of that. And, but, he's in prison for doing things to other people that he should not have ever done.
Hmm.
And, I'm still healing from that process. I'm still understanding that that wasn't love. That wasn't something that, I needed in my life, but I was desperate for attention. So for me, that was my story. Was your story kind of similar to that as well?
Yes, I think it was being with someone who felt like they had that much control and them knowing that you wanted to get out of it and to stop going through it, for them to make you feel like, well, if you want to get out, there's only one way out of this, and I didn't want that to be how my story ended. And so just God giving me that way out safely to be able to be here today and tell my story is something that truly shows you the reason why God says to be still and know that I am God. That was a verse that I held on to a lot during my process of trying to get out and praying my way out of the situation. It was always, I just heard God saying, be still and know that I am God. You're going to get out of this and you're going to get out of it alive.
Oh my goodness, that speaks volumes. Because there's a lot of times that, we feel alone. We feel like that walk, like that process, that nobody's listening, nobody's watching, but God hears everyone. He hears all his children, and he knows that that's not how we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to live that way. We're not supposed to be under the power of someone who's taking advantage of you, manipulating you, and using coercive ways to keep you in that position. That is not love
Yes.
at all. Oh my goodness. So, all of you folks out there, men and women, young ladies, young men, if you are watching this, understand that is not love. If you are in a relationship where someone is manipulating you, they're trying to control you, that every moment you have to, think that you have to please them to make that relationship work, that's not love. If you cry over that relationship, if it's abusive, it's verbally abusive. And I would like to reiterate that verbal abuse, physical abuse, there's also mental abuse. There's also spiritual abuse. Okay, let's just say it. I don't think this topic is really talked about a lot. And Aneta, I kind of want to talk to you about this one too. So if you have somebody who says that, well, if God loves you, he would save you from this situation. If God loves you, then let him provide a way to take you out. Like they're kind of using your
Mhm.
spirituality against you. That is also a form of abuse as well. So can you talk about those four types of abuse?
So a lot of people, I think you touched on something really great because a lot of people feel like, oh, well, when I hear abuse, I think that it's only physical. No, there's a lot of mental, there's a lot of verbal. As you said, there's a lot of spiritual. And a lot of times when you are dealing with someone who's abusive, they will use every tactic to basically try to maintain control over you, to keep that perimeter there, to keep abusing you. Um, and a lot of times people say, well, why doesn't someone just get up and kind of leave? Well, when you're in the situation as us being victims, that is a very, I'm going to try to talk about this the best I can, but being in that situation is horrifying. It's terrifying. It's not one of those where sometimes people see the movies and the shows and they believe you can just get up, pack your bags, and go. It's more than just being physically hit. It's a lot of mental that you have to deal with, a lot of psychological things you have to deal with. That those things take time to process before you're able to even have the strength to exit that situation. the exit depends on so many variables for you to be able to successfully get out and stay out of that situation.
Mhm. And yeah, you really did like touch on a really hot topic. I'm gonna say hot topic because a lot of people are just saying like, why don't you just get out? Like if it's that terrible, why don't you just leave? But sometimes it's not that easy. For me, I was stuck in that mentality that I was married to him. He was my husband. So spiritually, I was invested in trying to see the better in him for the longest time. I thought that, I could change him. I thought that I could, forgive him and he won't do it again. I thought that maybe, God can restore that marriage. But for me, I had to snap out of that situation where it got to a point where he threatened my life. If it gets to a point where he threatened my life, he threatened my overall well-being, he threatened the life of my children's, he threatened all this other kind of stuff. Like I know that definitely is not a relationship that God would want me in. And I don't think that's really talked about enough amongst us women and
Mm-hmm.
men in relationships because let's just say it, the church doesn't like to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it is something that people need to be aware of that God doesn't want you in those type of relationships. They're not equally yoked. Um, if he wanted you in a relationship, he wants you in one that's going to be equally yoked, honoring him,
Yes.
that you're, spiritually compatible, that you understand and he understands that you have to love unconditionally. So, I want to talk about you being an advocate and your services. So this is something you are very passionate about helping others with. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me about your advocacy services and what you offer to the community.
So now in DFW, I own a nonprofit organization. It's called ADE, Recovery and Transitional Living. We offer support to women who are fleeing domestic violence. We offer resources as far as support groups. We help them to get housed. We help their children. We just really help them with a fresh start because we understand how hard that is when you are getting out of something where a lot of times the codependency occurs in abusive relationships. And a lot of times when you're fleeing that situation, you don't have everything that you need. Sometimes you have to leave everything and give it all up to start all over again. And so one of the main things that I do and I try so hard to do is make sure I offer as many resources as possible because I've been in those shoes before. And so that's why I'm very passionate about that is to save lives, make sure people know that there's a way out. Because sometimes when people don't know that there's a way out, that they have help, it's harder for them to feel like they have that strength to get out of that. And so that's where I come in. We're trying to get out in the community, let more people know about what and just being a helping hand and really being a shoulder to lean on in such a hard time.
Hmm. And I'm very thankful for your resources, for your nonprofit, because you hit it right on the nail. Sometimes when you flee a situation, especially a violent situation, you literally have to leave with the clothes on your back. And because it's all about survival, it's about trying to do what's best for you. So there has been cases where I've talked to people before, that they were just like, I had to leave. Like I had, that was my moment. That was my chance to get out of that situation. Like I had to leave. And they literally left with the shoes on their feet and the clothes on their back. Like they didn't have nothing else. So how can someone get a hold of you for your resources?
So you can reach out to our organization. The number is 737-304-2120. You can also reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline and ask for them to refer you and route you to us. We are one of the top 10 nonprofits in DFW currently that help women who are fleeing domestic violence to gain resources and help to restart their life.
Hmm. Oh my goodness. Y'all, please, if this is a resource that hits to the heart for you, you need to reach out. Reach out. Especially, I just want to give a shout out there to the domestic violence hotline. It has been a resource that's been out there for years. I think it's underutilized. I don't think a lot of people know about it, but there are people waiting to help you to get you out of that situation. So there actually have resources where people will actually come and rescue you from your situation if you just call and reach out to someone, because staying silent is not the answer. Staying silent about it is not going to fix anything. And if you don't speak out, you're not going to get the help that you need. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Is that right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So for the other things that you have going on, can you tell us what other things you have a podcast? Tell me about your
Yes.
podcast.
I have my podcast, Life with Aneta. And a lot of people who have listened to it through the years that it's been on, it's kind of been like I use my podcast to be kind of my funnel, kind of my way to express myself, to kind of take people through my journey of domestic violence even before I got out. And so it's really a podcast about my life, and it's about spotlighting others and really just being the voice that people feel that they need to hear. Because sometimes I may be comfortable talking about something on my podcast that maybe somebody may not be comfortable talking about, but them hearing that, it gives them a different perspective, or it gives them some kind of inspiration and motivation. So I try to use my platform to really inspire and motivate others and really just connect with others.
I love that for you too, because there is healing and restoration when you start talking about your experience.
Yeah.
So, is there certain guests that you look for, like certain stories maybe you might be trying to reach out for? You know, because every platform has their guests. They're different types of people that are perfect for their podcast. So, who's
Mhm.
perfect for your podcast?
So for my podcast, I say that I welcome all because some segments are for me to speak to survivors, and some segments may be for me to spotlight entrepreneurs because, I'm one of those people where I'm like a serial entrepreneur. So I love to spotlight others who are doing great things and put them out there and kind of motivate them to keep being great and doing what they do. So I have different segments that I do from time to time just to welcome everybody into the podcast. So everybody kind of has their space and their niche with the podcast.
Okay. All right. I respect that too. Because, there's so many podcasts out there, but, there's always the people out there be like, well, is that podcast for me? Like, is that something that I need to follow? Because they're more likely to follow a podcast that relates to them. So the
Mm-hmm,
fact that you have this podcast, you're speaking out about healing through domestic violence, to bringing awareness to other people about what has worked for you.
mm-hmm.
I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do. And where can they find your podcast?
So it is currently on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's also on YouTube. It is Life with Aneta. I'm going to put on a few more other platforms, but for right now, those are the platforms that it's currently on.
Okay. Y'all please go follow her, support her. But I'm gonna go more into depth with Aneta because, if she's watched our show, she's gonna know that I'm gonna ask some questions about her journey. So, Aneta, we have a lot of young viewers out there who maybe want to be an author. They may want to talk about their life struggles, may want to write their own books too. So, how did you how did you know that writing a book was going to be something that would help you heal?
When I understood the power of journaling, and when I understood the power of processing your emotions and getting them out in the way that works for you, and when I began to feel, the more I was writing, when I began to feel the more healing coming out of that, how therapeutic it was.
Mhm.
It really showed me just how therapeutic that writing and getting out what you need to, that it really can help you a lot.
Mhm. And I've been hearing that a lot with a lot of authors. They're just like, when I start pinning it down, like that healing just starts coming through, and God is starting to help me understand that my purpose through my pain is something that I need to do. Like the fact that you're providing a book that brings awareness to such a sensitive topic, and it provides a a light for other women and men. They read it to understand that that's not a relationship that you're really supposed to be in.
Mhm.
I feel like God has given you a deeper purpose. and that your journey is meant to help someone else. I love that for you. I really do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And for our youth out there, the young ladies out there, is there like something that you're very passionate about for the young ladies out there? Something you want to tell them?
I will say that I want you to dream big, believe in God, learn what healthy versus non-healthy relationships are. Always be a part of great support around you. Make sure that, you know, the people that you are around, that they're good for your mental health, they're good for your self-esteem. And also always love yourself and believe in yourself. That is very important.
Mhm. Those are very powerful words. Like you really do need to believe in yourself. And there's one thing that I'm very passionate about with young ladies is for them to be understanding that their self-worth is worth a whole lot more than this world gives them credit for. Like, they try to devalue themselves to make themselves feel accepted. And it breaks my heart when I see that. That these girls, they're so desperate for acceptance, for understanding. They're navigating their emotions, their hormones. They want to be grown-ups already.
Yeah.
And, I was talking with my friend, Alfonso, he does a class over teaching protecting our girls in the community.
Mhm.
Um and one of the things that he spoke about was these young girls, they didn't find a safe place to talk to their parents. They seeked out um outside connections for communicating to people. Like they were looking for acceptance through strangers. And it actually ended up hurting them more than
Mhm.
helping them. So we want to talk about providing a safe place for young girls to talk. Like if they're not getting it at home, you know, they should get it from somewhere else than somebody that's actually going to listen. So can you talk to our viewers about why providing a safe place for the youth is so important?
It's very important because if you look at it, the youth, they have not become adults yet. They haven't had a chance to navigate into that world. And so the earlier that we can offer support in safe spaces, I'm a parent myself, and I've always told my children, I want to be your safe space to open up and talk to me. And if there's ever a moment that you feel like you can't talk to me, I want you to go to a place that you feel like you are supported, that is truly safe, whether that's an organization, whether that's a support group. But I think the importance of just providing those safe spaces to the youth early, it is very vital for their mental health, for just their overall health and their protection.
Mhm. And I agree with that too. I was saying whenever I was a young mom growing up with my kids, I always thought that I was a safe place for my kids. I was that one house where everybody would come to. But, even my kids kind of struggled with that outside, influence and stuff. There was a lot of outside influence that was, pulling them away from me. They were pulling in different directions. And I believe as a parent, I had to battle with that. I had to wrestle with the fact that there was somebody else trying to get my kids' attention. Um, and as a parent, let's be real. Like we're both parents, so I mean, just understanding that you have to be open, you have to communicate with your kids because if they're not going to communicate with you, they're communicating with someone.
Yes.
They are. And our children's safety is very important. The women's safety, men's safety. Like, I do want to kind of piggyback, like, off of our initial conversation with also men now coming out to speak about domestic violence. Can you talk to our viewers on why that is so important and why men need to speak out too?
I think it's important because I think a lot of times people have a stigma about what domestic violence is. A lot of times they feel like, okay, well, it's always like it just happens to the women. That's just all it is. But people don't understand that there's different scopes of that. It happens to men, it happens to women, it happens to everybody. But I also think it's very important for men who want to bring their voice to also guide the way to say, well, you know what? All men are not like this, but we are in support of the victims who go through this and show that positivity that needs to be put out there because it's such a big crisis that goes on in the domestic violence world.
Mhm. And I think I talked with this and a couple of my male guests that came on my show. We were talking about men tend to not want to talk about what they're going through because they show it as a sign of weakness to speak
Mhm.
out. But actually, it's a source of strength. It shows that you're not scared to talk about things that are actually happening. So, speaking out, can you tell our viewers why it's so important about you speaking so strongly about a topic? Because I know you're passionate about your topics, but the power behind your topics, like, can you talk to our viewers on why that is so important?
I feel like it's very important to be an advocate for something that a lot of people don't want to talk about because a lot of the advocacy, it helps to save lives. It helps to make people feel like they have a safe space. And it opens the door for more people to say, okay, I'm going through this. Maybe I can use that as a safe space to go and talk about it. Maybe I can use it as a resource to get out of what I'm going through. So I think it's very important to always be an advocate and speak out and allow that space to be open for others to feel safe in.
Hmm. And I agree with that too. Like, for me, I think there's healing in speaking out too, because whenever I find myself talking to other people who've experienced what I've experienced, and, we've all experienced it in different ways. But,
Mhm.
there's healing and understanding that you're not alone. Like there's a community that will
Yeah.
actually embrace your journey with theirs. And I love the power of community. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yes.
So I would like to just thank you first and foremost for being so transparent, for sharing your story on my show because I know you've had a very busy day, you've had a very trying week, and the fact that you're here on my show is a blessing to me. So I want to tell you thank you.
You're
Mhm.
welcome.
Absolutely. So for someone to go and get your book, how could they get it?
So you can purchase my book on barnesandnobles.com or either amazon.com. Or if you're in the DFW area, you can reach out to my organization and I also have in-person copies. The name of the book is called Sleeping with a Monster, My Story of Survival by Aneta Sproles.
Mhm. And go get it, guys, because I know this story. Somebody out there needs to read her journey. They need that inspiration to understand that there is hope in your situation, and you really need to be aware of these things. So I would like to say, I don't have any more questions for this show. But I mean, we touched on some really tough topics. I mean, we advocated the best way we could. Reach out to her counseling services, her advocate services, reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. There is a resource out there to help you. Young ladies, do not fall for the trap of reaching out to a complete stranger on the internet to
Yes.
help you. I promise you it's not going to go well. It will not. So, young men too, this message is for you. If you are in a relationship like this, understand it's not for you. You really need to think about your safety. So, for our viewers, please go. What's your social medias?
Okay. So I am on Instagram as Wealthy Aneta. I am on Facebook as Advocate Aneta Sproles. And so you can find me on social media. I'm pretty open and big on there. If you ever need to reach out for resources, I am available to always talk, to always help the best I can. So feel free to reach out to me on social media as well. If there's something you're needing, you just need to talk, you need a safe space. There are people who are here for you. I'm here for you.
Absolutely. And it is her that's talking, by the way, guys. So she is really as authentic as she is on my show right now. She is an amazing person, amazing speaker. She's got a story, and she's going to be on our conference coming up on July 19th, sharing her story about walking in her purpose even before she knew God had it for her. So y'all got to come out. is going to be at 8353 Lake June Road. You can get your tickets at the door, but this is a transformative event. I just encourage the community to come out and just embrace these stories of change and what God is doing in people's lives. So that is it for our episode today. Go follow Aneta. Go follow me. What's Up Dallas Magazine, providing all positivity all over DFW and bringing more guests to our channel. See you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.